Hello my friends and welcome back to ACCA FA. Today we're going to be talking about the regulatory framework. Now you might be wondering what the regulatory framework is. And I'm just going to try and spell it now, regulatory framework. Basically, this is the boundaries within which financial reporting statement or financial statements are prepared. And it makes sure that we have some sort of regulation or rules, if you like, but not necessarily all legal rules, to make sure that financial statements meet all the qualitative characteristics and basic principles that we've talked about before. Now, we're going to talk first of all about why we need one, as if we don't know, but we're going to talk about why we need one first of all. And then we're going to talk a little bit about something called accounting standards. Now, accounting standards are documents that are drawn up by regulatory bodies that make sure that people who prepare financial statements know exactly how to deal with certain transactions when they're putting accounts together. Now, there's a lot of learning involved in this, and you've got to understand the bodies involved, their names, and what they do. Now, once we've done that, we're then going to talk about something called corporate governance. Now, you may have heard of corporate governance, whether you work for a company, or you work in a charity, or you work for a university or a school. You'll probably find that the term corporate governance is bandied about. And the whole point about corporate governance is to make sure that the owners of a business act in the best interests of their stakeholders. What we're going to do first of all, though, is we're just going to go back to the notes here, and we're going to start off by looking at why we need a regulatory framework. Now, the whole purpose of having some sort of framework is to make sure that all of the users that we talked about when we mentioned the conceptual framework, all of the users can feel assured that they're getting a basic minimum amount of information. We need to make sure that the information is both comparable between one company and another, and consistent between one company and another and from 1 year to another. We also want to make sure that users' confidence in the whole process is increased, and we can make sure that companies and their directors act in an appropriate way towards investors. Now, just having accounting standards on their own isn't really going to cut it at all. So what else do we have? Well, we've also got down here some other sources of regulatory information. We can talk about these financial reporting standards which tell us how to put accounts together. That's fine. What we also have in different countries is national law. In the UK, we have the Companies Act, and that sets out things like how directors should behave, what sort of duties and rights directors have, and also what their responsibilities are towards investors. We also have market regulations. For example, we want to make sure that financial markets act in the appropriate way. And in the UK, we have a body called the Financial Conduct Authority that makes sure that the markets themselves operate appropriately for everybody concerned. And we have stock exchange rules and regulations. In the UK, we have the London Stock Exchange. In the US, we have the New York Stock Exchange and some other stock exchanges too. And what these security exchange rules do is for quoted companies that are listed on those exchanges, we make sure that they provide appropriate information. And in particular, they are responsible for looking at corporate governance. So what we can see is that there are lots of different places where we can get regulation from. Now, international financial reporting standards are set by the International Accounting Standards Body, which is trying to make sure that companies around the world have the same accounting standards, and so that companies around the world prepare their financial statements in exactly the same way, following the same principles. Now, at the moment, all listed entities in the UK and in a number of European and other countries around the world follow international financial reporting standards. We do have some other national standards for organisations that are a little bit smaller than listed entities, but they are very similar in the UK to international standards. Some countries don't follow them, but we're going to assume when we're doing financial accounting that everybody follows the international financial reporting standards. Now, what you need to understand is how these are put together and the structure of the body that looks after them. The overriding body that looks after these is called the International Financial Reporting Standard Foundation, and we call that the Foundation for short. Now, this is a supervisory body. It's there to make sure that accounting standards are created. It provides budgets, it puts people on committees, and it makes sure that the whole process is set up. Now, their main objective is to make sure that we have accounting standards that are applied and they are followed, and they make sure that as many different organisations as possible use them. We then have the International Accounting Standards Board. This is sometimes just called the board, and this is the element of the foundation that creates the International Financial Reporting Standards. They are responsible for developing and publishing those standards, and they have an advisory body, which we call the Advisory Council, that then helps them put that together. It's sometimes just called the Council. And this advisory body is there, it's made up of people with a broad range of backgrounds, and they advise the board on certain decisions that they might be making about accounting standards, and also giving other advice as well. The Interpretations Committee, and it's sometimes called IFRIC, IFRIC, is basically the body that needs to make sure that the accounting standards are being applied in the real world. And if it's not, then they will feed back to the board and tell them why that's not happening. And they work very closely with the board to make sure that these standards are applied. And if they're not, then we try and find a way of making sure that they are. They also wander around different organisations trying to identify certain areas or certain transactions that businesses are finding themselves going into, and making sure that there is an accounting standard on them. And if there isn't, they'll put something together as a stopgap, and then while they sort something out for later. So understand what those bodies do, what they're responsible for. Now, the one I've not mentioned that is relatively new is called the International Sustainability Standards Board. It was only formed in 2021, and its idea is to try and make sure that financial statements have some form of sustainability related disclosure. And they're trying to put some standards together to get this idea of sustainability across, looking at the risks and opportunities that companies are facing when it comes to sustainability. So a relatively new board, and therefore I would make sure that you understand what they do. Now, having done that, what I now want to do is to think about this idea of governance. And it's a very important concept in an organisation. And when we talk about the company itself, we're not really looking here at corporate governance when we're talking about a sole trader or a partnership. We're looking at where there is a separation of ownership from shareholders and directors who control or manage the organisation on behalf of the shareholders. Now, sometimes we find that their objectives do not quite match. What do shareholders want? Shareholders want to invest in an organisation and make as much money as they possibly can. Directors want to take that money and they want to spend it making sure that they've got a career and a job, and they probably promote themselves. I'm not saying that's always the case, but there is a risk that that is the case. And so sometimes we get this conflict of interest between the two parties. Now, it's important that in any organisation, the managers and directors are seen to be acting in the best interest of those owners as well as other stakeholders. And this is where the corporate governance comes in. Now, I'm just going to go down to the bottom of the page here. What the corporate governance did, it started in about 1992 following a rather nasty corporate scandal where a large entrepreneur and a business owner raided a company's pension fund and spent the employees' pension fund on acquiring another business. He thought it was his money and it wasn't. And at that point, we created something called a Cadbury report. And the Cadbury report said, directors and managers must act in the best interests of any shareholder and other stakeholders to make sure that money is not wasted and things aren't wasted. And it's developed really over a number of years. We've seen in the last 20, 30 years that corporate governance has evolved. And different countries take a different view of corporate governance. In the UK, we don't set in law. We expect companies to comply or explain why they haven't. And we call that a principles-based approach. In the US, they have something called Sarbanes-Oxley. Sarbanes-Oxley is a piece of legislation that says that companies have to comply with certain corporate governance rules. And if they don't, the directors will be held responsible. Now, what you need to understand really are the types of things that corporate governance covers. I'm not saying that you need to know all the rules about the US or the UK. You just need a good understanding of what the basic principles are. Now, the main purpose is to monitor those parties who control the organisation and control the resources that are basically belonging to the investors. Now, what does that do? Well, we need to make sure there is a nice balance of directors on the main board. We have what we call executive directors who work for the organisation and make decisions on behalf of the organisation. They should be remunerated fairly, but not excessively. We need to make sure that the board monitors and takes responsibility for any risk. And we also need to make sure that the external auditors, the parties that check that the financial statements are broadly reflecting what's gone on in the organisation, make sure that they can act freely, they can talk freely, and they're not biased. And we also need to make sure that they cover other things that are becoming a little quite topical really: ethics, corporate social responsibility, and making sure that whistleblowers are protected. Now, to do this, we need also, as part of our objectives, to contribute to improved performance and accountability in long-term shareholder value. And what this basically means is that we need to make sure that the controllers of the organisation are controlled. We need to make sure that the investors have an increased level of confidence and feel that all transactions are transparent. And we also need to make sure that the company is run in a legal and ethical manner, and that the control at the top will cascade down the organisation so that everybody within the organisation will act in the appropriate way. Now, the basic elements of corporate governance really are effective management, having effective systems of internal control. Now, internal control are controls in place in the organisation to make sure that assets are safeguarded. We also have some non-exec directors on the board who are not employees, don't work for the business on a day-to-day manner, but provide advice through experience that they may have had externally. We need to make sure that directors' performance is judged fairly, and that means only being remunerated where they've done well. Hence the fair remuneration. We also need to make sure that all financial reporting reflects what's gone on in the organisation, and that we are going to be building some good relationships with shareholders as well as other stakeholders. Now, the directors, therefore, have a general duty of care to act in good faith and to avoid any conflicts of interest. And these responsibilities that they hold are put through, sometimes these come out in Companies Act as well, but basically we're making sure that they have a good system of internal controls that detects and prevents fraud and error. They adequately maintain accounting records. They prepare financial statements that are in compliance with any regulations and accounting standards, and they have the responsibility to approve them before they are published to shareholders. Now, again, as with other chapters, there's a lot to learn in here. It's quite an interesting topic, actually, when you read around corporate governance and find out what businesses have been up to. Make sure that you understand the principles behind. There's a lot to learn in this chapter. And spend some time looking at what the elements of the International Accounting Standards Board are doing. So I'm going to leave you to have a little read through those, my friends. Enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.